Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one, or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think
we
are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me, and you're not understanding me. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This seems to be what you're arguing.
These same district court judges didn't do a damn thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens. Do these district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Hungary or Laken Riley or anyone else?
But okay, I need to ask you one more question. I'm going to have to let you go.
Democrats defending Tren de Aragua instead of celebrating President Trump expelling these terrorists from our midst.
Every time I see a Stephen Miller interview, I immediately click. I don't even know what he says in this thing. I haven't even watched it. I'm going to watch it with you guys. But I already know by the look of this CNN host that he's about to cook her. Put her in a logic prison, and she's not going to know what to do. Let's get right into it. It's SeanDaniel here. If you enjoy the video, consider subscribing or just hitting that like button. Let's go, Stephen.
Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, is here with me now. Stephen, thanks very much for being in the arena.
Glad to. Thank you.
So you called the judge's order just earlier today, quote, patently unlawful, end quote, and said that it was an assault on democracy itself. Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the president the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So, Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question, if you could answer my question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be, yes, it is documented. The TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one, or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think we are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me, and you're not understanding me.
She's way in over her head. Do you see how she froze in the beginning? She's like, wow. Remember, this is a key point. I said this before. in a previous Stephen Miller video. She has an earpiece. She has a producer giving her advice. Stephen Miller's sitting there by himself, breaking stuff down, and even she doesn't know what to say. And the more crazy thing is that she's going to continue to defend Tren de Aragua members over the commander-in-chief getting them out of the country. Keep cooking, Steve.
Read the statute, Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government, so it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong. Look up the statute. It's on my account on social media.
That's actually where we found it earlier.
Yes, it says or a predatory incursion or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute.
So,
but this is a very important question, because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say.
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation. I mean,
a district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not.
Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over this or not? Like, does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here?
I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial review.
But you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Tren de Aragua as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel? Hold on. How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country. It means you have no sovereignty. It means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
She don't know what to do. She's way in over her head. I even get lost sometimes. You can see by her body language too. But do you realize she is arguing, like he's saying, for keeping people in the country that have murdered, raped, done gang activity, taken over apartment complexes, and they're associating themselves with a gang which has already been deemed a terrorist organization by the United States. This is literally who this woman is defending right now. Now, partially, she's just taking orders from her producer, which CNN is then taking orders from the DNC. We've known this for a long, long time. But man, if I was her and I woke up and I saw it, man, I got an interview with Stephen Miller today, I would be like, oh my God.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying
separation
the district
of powers.
court does not
this is the judiciary
have
interfering
Stephen,
in the executive function.
That
is the separation of powers. That is the separation of powers.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district court
if you
has
don't have
no
to follow
ability.
it, why didn't you?
The district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can enjoin that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy.
Stephen, you've made your argument.
We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered it. I've answered it because the Department of Justice has made a filing in the court. But let me make another point. The judge, in this case, put the lives of every single person on those aircraft at risk. Did he know how much fuel was in those planes? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Did he know the need for crew rest? Did he know any of that? No. This judge violated the law. He violated the Constitution. He defied the system of government that we have in this country.
Because that does seem to be what you're arguing
These same district court judges didn't do a damn thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens. Do these district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Nungary or Laken Riley or anyone
the federal
else?
Courts. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak
I will
for
do.
You're here to speak for the White House.
I
just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch. But their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other troops overseas. I need to ask you about something else.
The president issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media, none of that outrage was expressed when little Jocelyn Nungary was tortured and beaten to death. None of that outrage was expressed when our nation was flooded by illegal aliens.
He makes a great point. With all the stuff it's very hard to keep up with, one thing he made a great point of is, why was these district judges not making these rulings when Biden was allowing all these people to flood the country, give them all these benefits, pick exactly where they wanted to be? I didn't know all this stuff about the breakdown, about the different powers. It makes a lot of sense. Why would a district judge have the right to interfere with a commander-in-chief decision? Is he going to make a ruling when Trump wants to have another terrorist killed outside of U.S. territory? It's a really good point. Are any of these district judges going to do anything to stop all the money flooding to the illegals when they're inside the U.S.? No, they were never doing that. And why are they now jumping in when Trump's trying to get rid of gang members? It's great to see not only that someone like Stephen Miller is taking a stand to get the dangers out of our country, but also to save our country money and stop all the wasteful spending. And if you enjoy saving money like I do and making money for money you're already going to spend, you can get cash back like I've gotten, where I've gotten $600 cash back, $1,000 cash back, and over $1,000 in travel rewards just from using credit cards, which I have linked down below, for things I was already going to buy. And if you guys want to save some money and get some money back for things you're already purchasing, I will receive a little referral bonus if you choose one of my links down below. This is stuff I use every single day. And if you're interested in some cash back, check out the links down below. Now let's finish off with Miss Confused CNN anchor and see how she's going to put Stephen in a corner.
I have just been simply trying to get a simple answer to a simple question. No outrage necessary about whether or not the White House is ahead of the courts.
But I am.
But I need to ask you one more question. I'm going to have to let you go.
Democrats defending Tren de Aragua instead of celebrating President Trump expelling these terrorists from our midst. And I'm glad for the opportunity to explain how the separation of powers does work. If the president has to litigate every national security action with 700 district court judges, then we don't have a functioning democracy.
Let me ask you one other question about the president's power today. It's on a slightly different topic, but we saw President Trump's comments about the use of the auto pen, the pardons that President Biden signed. And I just want to know from you, has President Trump ever used an auto pen to sign official documents, either in his first term or since he took office a second time?
Well, I've seen President Trump hand sign every executive order my whole time, and every part.
Have you ever seen him use an auto pen?
For him. But President Trump signs every single critical government function document. But here's the more important point about that, even more important. The more important point is that President Trump personally directs every single federal government policy.
Right, but has he ever signed anything with an auto pen?
To my knowledge, every single executive order, every single proclamation, every single major government action, every single thing that affects the lives, safety, and livelihoods of the American people that comes out of the executive office of the president, he has signed. But more importantly, he has directed,
signed without
he
the
has
auto
briefed,
pen.
he has been involved in. And this is the most important point. It's not just that Joe Biden used the auto pen. It's that he didn't know it. He was not briefed on it. He was not aware of it. He did not approve it. He was not mentally aware of what the government was doing.
If we're talking about the legality of something signed with an auto pen or not, I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything President Trump signed.
The key point is that you're missing it.
Stephen, I'm so sorry we're running out of time here. I do appreciate how much time you have spent with me, though.
Biden didn't know what was being signed in his name.
All right.
That's the key point.
I understand what you are saying.
She understands what he's saying, but she just harps on the point of what her producers want her to harp on so she can get Stephen Miller in a gotcha moment. She's not going to raise hell that possibly Joe Biden was using an auto pen and wasn't even aware of it. No. You got to remember, they use these producers. The producers are always telling them what to say. If they want to keep their big jobs, they got to say what the producers want them to say. They got to say what the bosses want them to say. And they're trying like hell to get Stephen Miller in a corner. He did a great job educating me, and I hope you guys, on the logic of why a district court should not be able, a district judge should not be able to jump in with commander-in-chief decisions involved with terrorist organizations. It's SeanDaniel here. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing or watching another one right here. I'll put some old Stephen Miller interviews on here, and I will see you in the next one.